investment opportunities, USA repossessed properties. My name is Godwin Okri. I trained as a barrister and lived a life of penury, going to all the criminal courts and getting defendants for rape and murder and manslaughter. And that didn't put money in my pocket. And I thought, where else would you make money? I used to do the repossessed properties for a number of the banks, Abbey National, Chelsea Building Society, here in the UK. And so I got into properties by accident, and by accident wealth was created. So in today's seminar, I'm going to address you on wealth creation, repossessed properties in the USA. There's going to be potential opportunities. I would showcase properties for you, and you would see how you could make money investing in properties directly from the banks in the USA. My aim today would be primarily that, encourage you to invest in the USA, because now is the time to invest. First of all, I'd like to thank Juan Aviles, who's come all the way from Orlando, Florida. He will speak to you after me, and then of course I'll come back. He will tell you his experience, and you would hear from him also the market in Orlando, Florida. If I could just look at the program. First of all, I'll say a little bit about Menvo Limited, the aim and objective of this seminar. I'll talk a little bit about the USA, examples of properties that you could get in the USA, why these properties are cheap. I'll give you economic postulates as to why the properties in America are this cheap. $5,000, $8,000, $15,000, and you'll see the pre-recession value. So the economic postulate will be explained today. Then I'll give you the reasons why now is the time to invest in the USA. I will deal with the procedure, the legal procedure on how to buy in the USA. I'll deal with that. Then there are a number of my clients here who's bought properties from me. They'll have like 1 or 2 minutes just to tell you about their experiences. They're here, and that's the success story so far. I could take questions from you. You could cross-examine me, and I'll be quite ready to take your questions. I know that my brother, your name has escaped me. Alfred is here to fire. He warned me about questions. I'm ready to take your questions. Then I'll deal with the rules for foreign investors. Because we're Brit and we're buying in the US, we are foreign investors. I'll deal with that procedure. And of course, if you then want to register, we have the opportunity for you to do so. Finally, I will deal with the 7 rules of wealth creation. I will tell you those rules that billionaires and millionaires use and why they are millionaires. Why is it that you have 2 people coming from the same household? One is a billionaire, one is not. That's the rule of wealth creation. I will deal with that today. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Let me just say a little bit about the USA first, why it's a great place to invest. Let's look at the USA as a federal state. In population terms, it's got 308 million people in the US. Now, the figures coming out of the US suggest that the population increased by 1 million a year. 11 million people in America are illegal immigrants, 16% of which then subsequently become legal by getting their papers. Why do I give you that figure? The reason why the numbers are important, they are important for you investors, because you need 308 million people in the US. That means you've got 308 clients. Because if you're an investor, someone has to rent your property. What is the statistics in England? England's population, 57 million. Figures coming out of the 58 million now. In the UK. In the US, 308 million. Let's look at the state. In New York, that's just in the city of New York, you have 21 million people in the city of New York. New York is the biggest city in the US. The next biggest city is Los Angeles, of 19 million. And then you have Chicago, of 17.5 million. Look at the numbers in just the city alone. So in terms of numbers, for investors like you, the US is the place to invest, apart from the prices, which I will deal with in a moment. Let's look at the economics of America. The gross domestic product in America is $14.4 trillion. Now, by definition, gross domestic product is the totality in money terms of goods and services produced in any one year. China is the next, China is tipped to be one of the superpowers. Well, the gross domestic product in China is $6.2 trillion gross domestic product. So they are well short of America. So why do I say this? It means that if the gross domestic product in America is $14 trillion, they have the money to pay. So if you're an investor, that's what you want to be looking at. You want to be looking at this economic postulate. You want to be looking at these economic factors when you invest. That's what I look at as an investor. So in real terms, they've got the numbers, namely you're going to have tenants, and they've got the money, namely they're going to be able to pay your rent when you invest. You've got to put your heart on as an investor. One further thing as a tool for you by way of introduction, still in America, is like we have here, we've got housing benefit here, don't we? In America, the comparable is Section 8. So what that means is if they are not in remunerative work, they could still pay your rent because they're Section 8 tenants. So you've got the numbers, they have the purchase power parity, they have the opportunity to pay in economic terms, and if they're not in remunerative work, they can still pay because they've got Section 8. So as investors, you've got all that benefit investing in America. Now that's pretty much a summary of America as an opportunity to invest, as a country to invest. Let me now just quickly look at some examples of properties that I've sold in the past. Brace yourself. Brace yourself. Let's see examples of properties. Detroit, $175,000. We sold it for $5,900. Hang on a minute, don't go. The exchange rate today is 1.56. So it's 1.556 to the pound. Okay, you do the maths. So 1.56 would give you 3,200 pounds. Would buy you that property. Freehold, unencumbered. There is no mortgage. You own it freehold. The next one. Indianapolis, I sold that property for $12,500. It's a detached property. It's brick. It's 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It needs work because remember, you are buying these properties directly from the bank. The bank-owned properties. We only do bank-owned properties, and one would come. My colleague all the way from Orlando, he would, he's an expert in Orlando properties. Please, I know you're speaking with the American accent, just break it down a little bit because we are Brit, we're not like you guys. Okay, right. Next one. Chicago. Chicago is the 3rd largest city, remember? After New York and LA. Chicago has 17.5 million people in the city of Chicago alone. I sold for $12,000. That's a 1-bedroom flat. There are 6 flats in that property, all owned. The whole flat was repossessed by the Bank of America. I sold one of the properties there for $12,000. New Jersey, 74. That's a $350,000 property. We sold that for $74,000. Maryland, Baltimore, couldn't see properly. $45,000. We sold that 2-bedroom property. Houston, Texas. We sold that for $400,000. We sold it for $158,500. 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, a swimming pool, nothing to do. The rent, $2,500 rent per month. What's that one? Okay, 36,000. Next one, I couldn't see because of the light. Washington, D.C. You could, 49,000. Keep going. So you can see the prices. Washington, D.C. Yes? Florida, 3,500. We sold that property for pounds, by the way, not dollars. That was in pounds. So it was about $9,000 I sold that for. Los Angeles, $75,000 sold. St. Louis, Missouri. Missouri is about 3 hours drive from Chicago. Boeing 747. Missouri is where it's been manufactured. It's a manufacturing city. See, I know my figures, right? There you are. Missouri, $12,700 I sold that for. Yeah, you can see the figures. Detroit, 7,900, I said, 4,000 pounds. Doctor, that's what you use for your suit. 4,000 pounds, man. Detached property, $12,000. Sold. Chicago, I think that's 18,000. Is that 19,000? Just pause there 1 second. Do you know why this is interesting? This is a 2-flat. It's a 3-bedroom. Hello. 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom per flat. You can see it's got 2 doors. So one of the doors take you upstairs, the other door take you downstairs. Each of them, a 2-bedroom upstairs, 1 bed. So you could rent each out separately. The whole building was sold for that amount. My client that bought that property gets about $900 per flat. You do the math. Atlanta, Georgia, sold $15,000. That's about 8,000 pounds. New Jersey, $11,900, sold. Okay, this was $175,000. I sold it for $8,500. That's 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, about 1,300 square footage, sold. New Jersey is expensive. It's like London. I sold for $15,000. Sold. Baltimore, you can see the price. Sold. Missouri, $11,900, 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, detached brick freehold property, sold. Maryland, $49,000. I had 3 offers there, but one of them was $49,000, sold. Okay? So just have a look at it while it goes. Prudent investor, act now. Okay. I now turn to the economic explanation. Before I deal with the economic explanation why these prices are cheap, let me just say just a little bit about Menvo Limited, because you need to know who we are, what we do. I think is pertinent for me to do so. Menvo Limited was established, it's a British company, was established in 2004. We started out doing repossessed property in the UK. And we just concentrate on US properties, on UK properties. In 2007, we saw an opportunity in America, and we began to do repossessed properties in America. We do directly bank properties, so any property you buy from us will be repossessed properties. If it's not repossessed properties, we will let you know, but it's mainly repossessed properties. You deal directly with the bank. There is no middleman. So that's what we do. We're just property companies dealing with repossessed properties in Menvo Limited. In terms of staff, we have an outsourced staff of about 15 outsourced staff. I'm the CEO, and we have other partners, and we have, corroborates. We have agents in a different state in America. So we've got agents in each state in America. We have contractors in each state in America. We've got property managers in each state in America. So if you buy in New York or Chicago or St. Louis, Missouri, we have property managers that could manage your property for you. So you buy the property, you renovate the property, you have property managers, and you could do your shopping under one roof. All you need to do is sit in your hacienda, in your posh house in Chelsea, look at the computers, go online, and you can see your rent come in. That easy. So we make it easy for our investors. Okay, I turn now to economics. Why are these properties cheap? Is it true? Can you really buy a property for $5,000? What's the catch? Why is it that in the pre-recession value it was $180,000? Today it's $10,000. Why? Let me give you the historical dynamics. In America, what happened was that banks were lending recklessly prior to 2007. We've got the primary market and the secondary market. The primary markets are the banks. What the banks will do is they'll give you a mortgage, you sign the deed. They will then sell the loan to the secondary market, to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and other government enterprise. And then once they've done that, they transfer the risks to somebody else. They will then get money from the secondary market and then lend with that. So they repeat the process. In that process, you'll find out the banks were not really taking any risk. They were simply transferring the risk. They'll get money, they'll lend, they'll give a mortgage, they'll then sell the mortgage to somebody else. So they'll transfer the risk to somebody else. And because there was an opportunity in America, there was reckless lending. The banks were just lending to anybody. They didn't care about your ability to pay. And that happened prior to 2007. But the bottom came out in 2007. Guess what happened? Bernanke, the Fed, the Federal Reserve is the central bank of America. It's like our Bank of America. You know, we've got Marlon King, who's the head of, well, Bernanke is the head of the Fed. They notched up interest rate. So because they increased the interest rate, people who didn't have the ability to pay, remember the banks were reckless. They didn't mind who they lend the money to. So because they gave loan to people who were unable to pay, by increasing the interest rate, they couldn't meet their mortgage. So there was a flood of repossession. Guess what happened? The bank had a lot of repossession. They had a lot of properties in their hands, and banks are not estate agents. So they didn't know what to do with the property. But America is unique, unlike here in England. They have FHA, the Federal Housing Authority. Now the FHA insures mortgage. So this is the funny part. The banks in America would give a mortgage, right? They would then go to the FHA to insure that loan and then sell the loan to somebody else. So the banks had two benefits. They were getting money and they insured a risk which they didn't really take because they transferred the risk to somebody else. So the banks, when there was repossession, they went to FHA for monies. The shortfall was what these properties are now being sold for because of the monies they are able to get from the insurance company, namely the FHA. So you could see a $300,000 being sold for $5,000 because that's the shortfall. So the banks are not really losing out. They're benefiting in both ways. They've sold the properties already to Fannie Mac and Freddie Mae, and they're insured by the FHA. Hence FHA loans, which are conforming loans. So that's why these properties are this cheap. So yes, it's true. You could get a property. I sold a property 2 weeks ago in St. Louis, Missouri. It was $350,000. It's a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2 swimming pools, and I sold it for $19,000. You do the maths. Then it was 1.44, the exchange rate. 1.62 2 weeks ago. It's now 1.65. You do the maths. My client was smiling all the way to the bank. Nothing to do. You got $750 rent per month coming into your account. Another advantage is once you buy this property and it's rented out, Menvo Limited could open an account for you because we have links with Regions Bank in Orlando, Florida, and of course my guy all the way from America could deal with that. We could open an account for you. So you don't have to leave your seat. So you could see your rent come in. That's one advantage in investing in these properties. Another thing about the USA is, of course, it's an English-speaking country, unlike investing in Spain. So they speak in English. They've got a mature and advanced judicial system. So if you have a recalcitrant tenant, just go to the court and get them out. So it's got that advantage. It's got a mature judicial system. It's English-speaking. You're buying at relative undervalue. And of course, the pound is stronger, 1.65. So that's the economic explanation why these properties are this cheap. The banks are not losing out. The defendant who's been repossessed is losing out, but the banks are not, because I've explained it to you. Let me just quickly read, before I move on to the reasons why now is the time to invest, let me read for you the News of the World capture. Now, the News of the World on the 10th of March this year reported that the number of billionaires in the UK actually increased in spite of the recession. I will give you the figures. Let me read it out. It says the number of billionaires in the UK increased by 32, with the Duke of Westminster again being the richest man in the UK. It goes on to say, despite the property slump, the recession, despite the property slump, the 59-year-old landowner increased his worth by, wait for this, by $13 billion in spite of the recession. His worth is now $13 billion. He is now the 57th richest man on the globe, according to Forbes magazine. You know that Forbes magazine has the list of rich people. You're investors, you know that. So the recession is when you make money. Let me give you some more figures. We've only had 3 depressions in our lifetime, 3 depressions. The Long Depression of 1873, the Great Depression of 1929, and wait for this, the recession of 2007. 3. There's only been 3, right? And look, the number of billionaires are increasing during recession. How is that possible? Well, it's possible because you're buying at relative undervalue. It's not rocket science. If you buy when things are cheap and you wait and sell when things rise, the movement is your equity. The movement is your profit. And that's where your money is because you're buying now when it's cheap. It's not always going to be like this. And I promise you one, I'm not going to cover your part of you could deal with that part. But it's not always going to be like this. It will change. So anyone who goes in now, quickly, this opportunity would get the benefit. Okay, I now want to deal with why today, why now is the time to invest in the US. Let's look at the reasons why now is the time to invest in the US. The first reason, the number one reason why today, now is the time to invest in the US is because you're buying properties at between 50 to 70% below market value. You've seen the number, you've seen the figures. We've shown you examples of properties that you could get. $10,000, $15,000, that couldn't buy you couldn't even buy a used car in England for that amount. But you could buy a property for that. So that's one of the reasons. Now, economic historians have argued that sensible investors invest when there's a recession. Now, by definition, remember the definition of recession. A recession, by definition, is 2 successive quarterly decrease in the gross domestic product in any one year. So when you have 2 successive decrease in the gross domestic product, we have a recession. And today, we really have a depression. They don't want to say it to you, but it really is bad. That's why it's the best time to buy. So because of the recession, you invest now. During a recovery, by definition, a recovery is 2 successive increase in the gross domestic product is a recovery. We're not there yet. The figures coming out of America right now says that they're about 3.2% in swing in the gross domestic product. Of course, China has got 7.5, but who cares about China? If they have repossession, Memphis will be right in there. But America is in it. The figures is mind-boggling. The figures suggest that investors really should be buying right now. I could read out a lot more figures, but I'll leave that for later on after one has spoken. And I'll give you more figures, and you'll see why it's a great opportunity to invest right now. Did you know that Walt Disney, remember Walt Disney, Florida? He bought a swampland for, get the figures, $1,000. Vast, I mean, you know the size of it. It's twice the size of Woolwich. I mean, it's incredible. For
150,000 acres.
That's the size, that's half the size of London. For $1,000. 1,000. Today, guess what the value? They couldn't put a figure in it. They couldn't put a figure in it. That's why you buy at a recession. Don't buy when the prices are rising. It's foolish. It's too late. You shorten the doors after the horses have bolted. It's too late then. So that's why now is the time to buy. Economists have tools. They call it consumer confidence index. Now, a consumer confidence index measures the confidence of the people in any one time. If your confidence is low, you wouldn't spend. And if you wouldn't spend, there would be a recession. If the confidence is high, you will spend. And if you spend, price will go up. Yeah? Okay. In today's market, the statistics is 2%. In other words, the consumer confidence index says that it's so bad, it's so low, that nobody is spending. So remember your demand and supply. The more the demand, the more price go up, right? Well, how can you place a demand? How can you buy something if you're not sure you're going to lose your job? If you're not sure about the economy, you're going to stop spending, right? That's your confidence, right? So the consumer confidence is down. So that's what investors look at. Investors like myself or great investors go quickly look at the consumer confidence index and say, is it down? Now it's time to buy. Is it up? It's too late. I'll wait for it to come down. So it swings, it undulates. The consumer confidence index is down 2%. Can you imagine? It beats 1929, the Great Depression. It beats the Long Depression of 1873. It's that bad. And so now is the time to go in because it's going to swing back. I think economists argue that around about two to 3 years, you'll see the swing. You'll see the swing. So that's why now is the time to buy. There are other further economic postulates. Now, some economists say that we have what you call a V-shaped economy, right? This is great for investors. They say we're the V-shaped economy. They say that's prosperity, this is recession, and we're going to have a sharp increase. So because we're going to have a sharp increase, we're here now. So buy now before there's a sharp increase. And this is where we are here. In America, they are somewhere there. They are further on. And I'll explain that later on. So based on the V-shaped theory, now is the time to buy. I don't believe in the V-shaped theory. Other economists say it's not a V-shaped economy, it's a U-shaped economy. They say that it's a U-shaped and it's here. That once it swings, it's going to swing gradually. So you could buy when it's here because then you could test the water. It's swinging. I'm in favor of the V-shaped economist because once it's down, I'm feeling that it's going to go back up quickly so I could sell. I'm a V-shaped economist. Others are U-shaped. Well, a friend of mine is not a U-shaped economist, he's an O-shaped economist. Now, it looks like an alphabet, right? Well, it is. Well, O-shaped economists, they argue that economics is cyclical. It's a business circle. When you're here, they say it's a recession. When you're here, they said it's contraction. This is expansion, and that's prosperity. Britain is somewhere here. America is further on there. Whether it's a U-shaped economy or V-shaped or O-shaped, I don't care. Now is the time to buy. That's the argument. I'm not interested in Q-shaped economics. Point taken. Now, another reason why now is the time to invest for you investors out there is because of the economic policies being pursued by the Americans, even by the British. Okay, if you look at the figures, in America, the Federal Reserve authorized that $1 trillion should be spent to shore up the banks. Remember Northern Rock? You know that we own Northern Rock, remember? Taxpayers' money was used to shore up Northern Rock. Let me give you the figures. In England, the amount that the British government spent to shore up, to support the banks is, wait for this, 850 billion pounds. In America, the amount is $1 trillion. Guess what that's going to do for the economy? Now, John Maynard Keynes, who is a great economist, great 19th century economist, he argued that if you're in a period of recession, government, you better start spending to swing yourself out of recession. That's what the Americans are doing. The Americans are trying to spend their way out of recession. For investors like myself, that's good because I am a V-shaped economist. So I go buy now and I position myself, right? So the moment, remember V-shape is down quickly and up quickly, right? Right, okay. So I'm a V-shaped economist. It's down quickly, so I buy when it's down because now Obama is spending that amount, $1 trillion. I know it's going to swing back up. The moment it swings back up, that swing is my profit. And that's why you make your money. You buy when it's low, you sell when it's high. And that's why now is the time to buy because we don't know when it's going to swing. So those are the figures. There are more figures I could swing out. I'll leave that till later. Now, Obama's policy, he has is gone. I think they've got the National Health Service. The health service has gone through Congress, right? It's now law. Now, these are the figures. They hope to spend $938 billion for the health care to guarantee insurance for 32 million Americans. Okay, let's look at the figures. If you're spending so much, if you're pumping so much money into an economy, at some point there was going to be inflation. Do you know what inflation is by definition? Inflation is increase in price. So if you buy during a recession and you sell during inflation, that movement is your profit, isn't it? Now is a recession. They're pumping them. You can see the money is going in. I've given you the figures. So they're pumping. So in time, it's going to come back up. So why don't you buy now and just wait? And when you come back up, if you want to sell at that stage, that's your profit. So just on the economic policies being pursued by the American government itself, that argument standing on its own is the justification why you need to buy as a V-shaped economist or V-shaped investor, really. Now, the LIBOR rate. LIBOR is the London interbank rate. LIBOR is the rate at which banks lend to each other. So Barclays Bank could go to NatWest Bank and borrow money and then lend it to you for a higher rent. The rate at which banks lend to each other is called a LIBOR rate. Yeah? Investors look at the LIBOR rate. Okay? If the LIBOR rate is low, it shows the banks are not lending. If the LIBOR rate is high, it shows the banks are lending. If the banks are lending, it means that you've got purchase power parity. You have money in your hands to spend. Okay, good. The more money you have, the more you spend. So demand go up. So the higher the demand, the higher the price. Okay? So there's a relationship between LIBOR rate and demand. If LIBOR rate is low, demand is low, price is low. The LIBOR rate coming out of the data shows that it's very low in England and in America. It's extremely low, so nobody's lending. So there's little competition. And so because there's no demand, the price would drop. Because the more people are rushing something, the more price would go up, right? So the LIBOR rate shows that the banks are not lending because they're not lending to each other. They don't trust each other. And so now is the time to buy because the demand is low. And because the demand is low, the price has dropped for the reasons I gave previously. So now is the time to buy based on the economic postulates of the LIBOR rate, the economic policies pursued by the US government, and I've given the figures, and because you're buying at 50 to 70% below market value. There's another justification why you need to be buying now. If you buy a property for $10,000 at 1.65, that's like 6,500 pounds, and you get a rent of $750, that's like 400 pounds, your rate of return is about 19% return. My maths is not very good. I think it's about 19% return. If you have that amount, if you put that money in the bank, you can only get 2% return. That's not a good return in the bank. And the bank will lend it out and get more interest than you do. So they will use your money more than you do. Doesn't make sense. You could buy commodities. If you buy commodities, who's going to buy it from you? Nobody's spending. And you can't rent out commodities like a rental income. So it's pointless. You could buy gold. I know you're going to tell me if I go to a gold expert is here. But gold cannot be rented out. So it doesn't have a residual income. But you could buy bricks and mortar properties and you rent it out and fold your hands, and that's a residual income coming in. So I would argue that property is the best form of investment than stocks and shares, commodities, gold put together, because it's got a high yield. It's got a yield. And so, if you buy properties like this, you're going to have yields of 20% return in your investment. So that's another justification why now is the time to invest in US properties. I've got another reason. I formulated an economic policy which is called the principle of inverse benefit. Now, the principle of inverse benefit, this is how it works. For you investors, it's important you get this. If you invest in just one country, you won't benefit from the principle of inverse benefit. But if you invest in 2 or more countries, that's very sensible. Because if you invest in America and you invest in England, if the dollar is devalued, it means that you have more spending power with pounds. So you could buy more in America. If the pound moves against the dollar, it means you have more pound, you have more dollars, right? So if you have more dollars, you could use that more money in England. So it's inversely beneficial for you to invest in 2 or more countries. Hence the principle of inverse benefit. That's why you need to invest in America, because it gives you a second opportunity to invest in a different country and benefit from the movement of the currency. You don't need to do anything. You could sit in your house and they say your property has increased by 20%. And you say, why? Because the dollar fell in value or the dollar increased in value. Without you doing anything, just movement of currency. You're making coffee in your house and your value is moving without you doing anything. And that's why they say that billionaires are sensible. They work for 20 minutes and the rest of the time they're playing golf. Whilst you see someone else washing plate, working, doing 9 to 5. You have to work smart, not hard. Work smart, not hard. It's the way to do it. It's the way to do it. So another reason why now is the time to invest is because you're going to benefit from the principle of inverse benefit. There are biblical justification. There are biblical justification why now is the time to invest. Let me give you a few examples. Did you know that the people of God prospered during recession? Let's read out a few examples. Joseph became prime minister during a recession. Lie? True. He became a prime minister because of famine in Egypt. Isaac became a billionaire because of a drought. There was no water. He said, I'm going to do a recession. I'm going to buy a bank-owned research property. I'll go and dig a well. So he dug well and became a monopoly. Do you know how he became a monopolist? Well, because there was drought, so there was nobody else. So he's the only one selling property, selling water. If you're the only person doing one thing, you are a monopoly. Isaac made millions selling water during a drought. Drought is recession. Famine is recession. Recession is recession. It's simple. Now is the time to invest. So, just to summarize, you're buying at 50 to 70% below market value. The economic postulates and the economic policies pursued by the American government is indicative that now is the time to invest because of the amount of money they're pumping into that economy right now. You're going to have high yield. Your rentals will be high because you're getting rental yields for investing for little outlay. There is more input. The principle of inverse benefit because you're investing in 2 or more countries. So the movement of currency itself benefits you. And that's why now is the time to invest. So what I say to a lot of my investors is, do not be afraid of the economy. Be in control of it. Because billionaires take risks. That's why they're billionaires. That's why they're millionaires. They don't sit in their house and go to do job for 9 to 5. If you do a 9 to 5 job, I could tell you, you're not going to make billions doing that. You have to run a business. You have to be creative. You say you want to do 9 to 5? I can't. I was looking at the list in Forbes. I didn't see a 9 to 5 guy in Forbes. I didn't see any. Landowners, investors. The number one chap who's the richest in the world right now is a Mexican guy. Lie? True. In telecom. Lie? True. He runs a business. He started from properties and used the profit of properties to went into telecom and cleaned out. So I will pause here. I will come back later and deal with foreign investors. I would also have opportunities to take questions from you. And the most important part, I will deal with the procedure, the step-by-step. And as a barrister, I know how. I'll try and simplify it for you. The step-by-step procedure on how to buy these bank-owned properties. Step-by-step, I'll deal with that later on during the second half of this seminar. If you think I'm boring you, take a break, go take some water, come back, sit down, and let's dazzle you, because now is the time to buy. I'll pause at the moment, and then you have the second speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, don't go too far because we've got Juan Aviles coming up next. So why don't you now we're going to take a short break, 2-3 minutes, because I know that a lot of things have come through into your head, and you might want to talk it amongst some people that came with you, and it's people you don't even know as well. So why don't you just go to the refreshment desk? If you just go through to that door on my left, and then you can help yourself to some refreshments, and we'll be back in here in 5 minutes. Okay? So 5 minutes? 5 minutes counting now. And it will be 5 minutes.
Okay? For the simple reason that the amount of properties that are out there to invest in is astronomical. But they're not going to be there forever. Because just like anything else, You're not the only ones that are going to be investing. You know, other people are knowing what's happening, okay? We got Canadians, we got other Europeans. They're coming in and they're starting to buy these properties. My job over there is to bring these people together, okay? The banks and you together. That's what I do. I'm a realtor. I'm not just what they call a real estate associate. To be a realtor, you have to get an ethics course, okay, on how to deal honestly with people. And that's the reason why I did get my realtor course, for the simple reason that I flipped, what they call flipping. I flipped houses for over 16 years, and I made a lot of money flipping houses till about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I lost a lot of money because I didn't know when to stop. You know, it's just going to keep going up, and you kind of know, it's like, wow, it has to get to the point where, you know, who's going to afford these houses at these prices? And that's what happened. So, I got hurt, but that has nothing to do with it. You have to be there at the right moment. Now is the right moment. As investors, sometimes we kind of say, we look what's happening around, and he's like, God, I wish I would have gone in at the right time. And a lot of people end up going usually at, where's that little bee he had? A lot of people go in at this time, okay? And they end up, they make a little bit of money, okay? But this is where we're at right now. That's where we're at right now. And I deal with that every day. Every day I'm closing deals like that, directly with the banks, okay? There's a lot of things going on. Besides the banks, you got what are called short sales, and you got your regular private owners. But you're not going to get the same deals as you will with the banks. For the simple reason, the banks, I don't want to bad talk the banks, okay? Because they're investors themselves, and they have their way of investing that we might think of it kind of sneaky, okay? But the banks always win. The banks want the property owners to foreclose on their homes because they win that way. They win with a tax break. Then they come, they buy these houses back from the state, right at the courthouse doors, and resell these houses. So they're double dipping. They're making a lot of money. Okay? Short sales, what happens is they give the owner the right to sell the property at a certain price, but it's just a game that they play with the homeowner till the homeowner gets to the point and says, you know what? Enough is enough. Take the house. I can't deal with it. Or they stretch out enough where the bank just takes the house. That's it. And then they foreclose, and they're going to win anyway. Now, your regular private owner, he's not going to be as flexible as the bank, okay? Because he's going to try to get at least what he paid for his house. But right now, the banks, they have the power. You, as the investor, have the power because you're going to buy cash. Cash rules. I watch every day. I make deals, not only with investors, but regular people, regular Americans who want to buy their dream home, okay? They're competing with cash buyers, and they're losing every day. And I feel for these people. You know, they're already approved for a mortgage. What's the difference? They got a mortgage. The bank is ready to lend them money. You know what? The bank seller doesn't want to deal with all that. Wait 60, 90 days to close on a house. They want to close in 30 days on these houses. And that's where you guys come in. Okay? And you probably wonder to yourself, wow, the economy is so bad. Who's going to pay? Who's going to pay for your property? Who's going to rent the property? There's no money. People need a house to live in. Just because they're losing their house, they're not going to go live under a bridge. They got to live somewhere. So eventually they're going to have to rent a house for less than what they're paying in their mortgage. All right? I don't know how it's here. U.S. has the bad reputation of wanting more. People who just want more. I want to have that car that he has. No, I don't want my little house. I want the humongous house. So they're always, what they said, trying to keep up with the Joneses. So that's what hurts them. Okay? So they end up getting in these binds. They refinance their house so they can go buy that nice car or go on those wonderful trips and everything, and think, oh, I'm doing fine, or, I'm making good money in my job. All of a sudden, the company closes down. They can't afford their mortgage. Unemployment rate, right now, they say, the government likes to hide everything so that they don't create any chaos in the community. It's between 10 to 11% unemployment rate in the United States. It's actually more around 15 to 16%. Okay, because the unemployment is based on, like I probably talked to some of you before, it's based on the amount of people that are collecting this fund from the government. It's not based on the amount of people who are actually not working. So at the same time, this unemployment is putting more houses in the market, which is a great investment for you guys. Right now, the U.S. confidence has been down for 3 years in a row straight. Like he said, 2%. I mean, anymore, it's like, besides the crash of this market, I'm more than sure you guys heard about the crash with the Enron. It's just, so consumers get to the point where they're not trusting anybody anymore. So that's hurting everything. The U.S. deficit, I don't even want to say the figure of what the U.S. deficit is, okay? But that alone is going to hurt the economy even more in the United States, because they have to do something to change the way the budget is in the United States. So what they're going to do, they're going to have to cut different government funds for different things, different help. And another part that creates what? More crisis for the people. So what does that crisis create? More foreclosures. Eventually, what's going to happen is the people are going to get angry with the government. And they're angry. The average guy is angry. Government's funneling all this money to the banks, to the automobile companies. I mean, you see it every day. You open any newspaper in this country and you can see that. And the people say, what's happening to the small guy? And eventually the government's going to have to react. All right? So you figure next 2 years, Obama's going to want to get that election again. Isn't he? So what is he going to do? Logical, what every president does. Right around that time, we need to funnel money to the small guy so we can get those votes again. So what that's going to do, that's going to bring up the money. People are going to be able to buy again, spend. It's going to make everything look like, oh, we're back in action. What's going to happen? Thanks for these figures. We're going to be up here. That's what's going to happen. And then you're going to be saying, oh, wow. God, I wish I would have done that. I lived in Florida 18 years. I've lived in the United States all my life. But I lived in Florida 18 years, okay? And I've watched how the market went from that to that 10 years ago and stopped in 2007. And now here it is again. And it's like, wow. You think those things will only happen one time? But no, it's here again. And you figure in another 3 to 4 years max, probably not even, maybe another 3 years, it'll be up here. Definitely. Or maybe even before that, right around election time. It's going to be, and the properties, even though they're out there, like I said, you got Europe, you got Canada, you got investors from all over the world whose dollar is strong. The U.S. dollar is, you got investors from third world countries coming to Florida or other parts of the United States to buy properties. When you buy cash, you got residual income. There's several things you can do with the property. You can buy it, fix it up, flip it, make a little money, or be patient. Rent it out, and you have a residual income for the rest of your life. You buy 2, 3, 4 properties, you're going to wake up every morning not having to worry about, isn't that nice to just wake up every morning and not have to worry about anything? You get up, you know that you're getting a check every month in your bank account from those properties. Now when you flip, you're making some money, but then you got your money again in your bank making what? 2% if you're lucky? In the U.S., you're only going to make 1.5% if you're lucky, and that's max. Now, statistics, I'm going to give you some realistic statistics so that I'm not going to inflate anything, okay? The average on a rental that you're going to make okay, is going to be between 8 to 18%. And you're not going to get that anywhere, which is still good. It can be above that depending on the price that you buy the property at. It all depends on what you spend, what you invest in. But you're going to make a minimum of 8% return on your money. The average rent in the United States is $600 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. A 3-bedroom apartment can get you between $800 to $900 a month. If it has a pool, it goes up to $1,000 to $1,200 a month. So, you know, right there, you have the figures right there. When you're buying these properties that were worth $300,000 for $40,000, $50,000, $20,000, and you hold them for the next 5, 10 years, they're going to go back up. Believe me, and you see it in that market. Real estate has always been the best investment in any country if you buy at the right time. And now is the right time. Don't procrastinate. You can't say, well, let me wait. Let me see if the prices go down anymore. The prices they're like this right now. And I don't think they can go down any further because you have the investors that are coming. I'm watching it every day. This is my job. This is what I do. Every day I'm watching these bids going on in these properties. Okay? Before it would be like, well, you can just grab them like this. But now, we're looking 2, 3, 4, 5 bidders for the same property. You see that $20,000 house, all of a sudden it's sold for $35,000. So the sooner you act, the better it is. The longer you wait, the less chance you have. That's just the way it is. And once the government starts throwing money to basically shut up, keep quiet the small guy, that's when the American people are going to invest again in their dream. That's the American dream. The average American, with 60% of Americans own their home. Okay? In the next 2 years, 60% of Americans will be renting their homes. Your home that you're going to buy. So, I mean, if that doesn't say enough, then I don't know how else to convince you. I mean, there's so many other factors between, the government cutting Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. That's going to hurt another class of people, and is just funneling more out there for you to grab before anybody else grabs it. All right? So, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Now is the time to invest. So, whatever other questions you guys might have, I'll be more than glad to, with Goodwin, help you guys out. And that's what I'm here for. Like I said, I don't have a pad. This is what I do every day. I bring buyers and sellers together. That's my job. I did it for 16 years as an investor. I saw how the banks and crooked people took advantage of the industry, and that's why I said, you know what? I'm going to get licensed to help people make money the right way. There was a lot of sneaks out there. I don't want to call them any other names. I'd rather do the things ethically, because what you do right comes back to you tenfold. And, I would hate to see you people get in with the wrong people, because like in any business, there's people out there just to make money. They don't care. They don't care. This is my life. This is how I take care of my family. I have 2 daughters. I have 3 grandkids. Yeah, 3 grandkids. So, I have to take care of them. And I believe in fairness, honesty, and being ethical in this industry, because what comes around goes around. So that's it. You know, if you want, I can do a little dance for you up here. You know? But I'm here to answer any questions, okay?
Okay, we want to thank Juan for that candid and honest appraisal of the market. And, you know, it's good hearing the perspective from the man on the ground, the man who is there. I told you, he tastes, feels, and touches the thing. So now, we want to go to the next stage now. Let's go back to our man in the UK, who's bringing it back home here. And we're now going to look at the final segment on how we can actually move forward with how we can actually invest in the properties there. Godwin, let's have you back on stage.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Juan. That was fantastic. I speak with a British accent. You speak with an American accent. I think we're superior to you guys. Okay. Fantastic. Now, what I want to do, am I echoing? Or can you hear me? Okay. What I'm going to look at now is the procedure on how you could invest. I will keep it simple. I'll be 10 minutes, and then we're going to have success stories. A few of my clients are here. I think there's one that bought a property for 1.5 million. Sorry, I shouldn't have said. I shouldn't have said. He's here. Sorry. Okay, he's here. $1.5 million, all right? Okay, well, he's here. Here we go. And then I've got my guy that bought in Detroit is here. Where is he? Eniola Mash, where are you? Okay, go into a car park. She should be back. Okay. So we look at some success stories. Let me just quickly look at procedure on how you invest in these properties. If you want to have access to these properties, you have to register with Memvo Limited. And then once you've registered, we would send you the properties by email daily. Once you're a registered client, we'll send you the properties. There's a form that you have to fill. That form would ask you, which state would you want to invest in? What is your budget? Once you've answered that, and then of course there are other questions which you'll, like what kind of properties, is it bricks, wood, stucco? All of that we'll explain to you. Once you've completed that form, you give us the registration form, we'll set you up in the office, and then you get the properties according to your specifications. We'll get the properties from different states. If you see a property that you like, you want to put an offer on that property, the bank would want you to bring your photo ID because of fraud. You know, money laundering and all this is going around. They want your photo ID and they want your proof of funds. Proof of funds is an American term which means a copy of your current bank account. That's all it means. Just typex your account number. They want to see your name, your address, and they will compare it with your photo ID just to make sure there's no dodgy thing going on here. Because the banks are... You're buying this property directly from the bank. So once you've put an offer on the property, you've given me your photo ID and your proof of fund, I would then submit the offer, do the contract for you to sign, submit the offer to the bank. The banks could do one of three things. They could reject your offer outright. Alternatively, they could raise a counter offer. So say the property is $10,000, you put an offer of $11,000, you go $1,000 more because you want to kick out any competition. The bank will say, well, okay, make it $11,500 and we'll sell it to you. That's a counter offer. Or the bank could accept your offer as it is. So they could reject it outright, make a counter offer, or accept your offer. If your offer is accepted, they will have a title company. A title company is like a conveyancer in England, or an attorney. That title company or the attorney would act for you and the bank. So you just have one person acting for two people. It doesn't quite happen here in England because the Law Society will pick you up under the rule of conflict of interest. Where's my solicitor friend? He's not here. No. They'll pick you up for conflict of interest. But we don't have, in America, they don't have that. They have one title company or an attorney that will act for you and the bank. So they'll prepare the papers, they'll email it to you, you print it out, you take it to a notary public, and sign in front of a notary public and FedEx that document back to the attorney. And then a date for completion is then fixed. Once that date is fixed, you chops or wire the monies to the attorney, and on that day, you own the property. It's that simple. Right? So just to reiterate the point, first of all, you have to register as a client with Menvo to have access to those properties. Once you've registered, we'll be sending you the properties daily. The moment you see a property that you like, you could put an offer. But you email me your photo ID and your proof of funds. I will then send it to the bank together with the contract. So I'll send you the contract to sign. Send it to the bank. So that's the documentary stage. So your proof of funds, your photo ID, and the signed contract is documentary stage. The next stage is the operational stage, where I send it to the bank could accept, reject, or raise a counter offer. That's the operational stage. If the offer is accepted, if it's rejected, well, start afresh. If there's a counter offer, well, look at your budget. If the offer is accepted, then the bank would appoint an attorney or a title company that will act for you and the bank. Then documents will be flying between both parties. I'll be emailing documents to you to sign. You send it back to me, we'll FedEx it like that. And then a date for completion is fixed. On the date for closing, in America it's called a closing date. In England we call it completion date. It's both the same. It's both the same. So we have the completion date, or the closing date. We have the closing date. And on the closing date, once you wire the monies, the property belongs to you on that day. It takes 6 to 8 weeks for you to get your title deeds, to get your deeds in your hand. It takes 6 to 8 weeks, because once you close, the title company work in the background. They will apply to the land registry to have it recorded. We call it registration. They call it recording. It's the same thing. So I'm using the word registration. One may not understand. Registration is recording. Recorded. So the attorneys will do the work, send it for recording, and it takes 6, because a lot of people are buying at the moment. So there's a lot of the land registry have a lot of work. So that's why it's taking 6 to 8 weeks, because you have a lot of backlog, because a lot of investors are buying at the moment. That's the procedure. Yes. You want to ask a question? Yes. Yes, you can. We could, we have agents in the different states. We have one in Orlando, Florida. We have agents in different states who could go and survey it for you, who could go and view it. I got to be careful, because survey means something different in America. That's what you thought. Okay, survey means inspect. Thank you, my Lord and Royal Highness. You got to be careful with English, the language, because the American English is different from the British English. Okay. All right, okay.
I know that someone will actually go and view the property, but I'm talking about surveying the property to make sure that it's not falling apart, and the mortar, brick and mortar and everything else. Okay. So to actually have a surveyor to actually go on.
It's on? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
What you're talking about, we actually call an inspection.
That's what I'm saying to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
A survey over there is it's actually a survey of the property, of the dimensions of the property. That's what we call a survey. Now, what you need is an inspection. And normally, yes, we do recommend an inspection on any property, because the roof might be falling apart. And you won't know. You just, because you're buying blindly. And I have tons of investors that do that from here, from England, from Canada. They buy sight unseen, okay? But yeah, for a couple of $100, yes, they actually pay. We do all the transactions for them, basically, and we have somebody come inspect the property, and they tell you, okay, you might need a new water heater, because the water heater is 20 years old, so you don't want it to break down where you got a tenant in there, or whatever, so let's replace that. You got a minor leak, you might want to take care of that. And if you see there's any issues like that, then that's when you decide, you know what, maybe I'll just let that property pass by, depending on how much it's going to cost you to fix these things. Yeah, I would definitely not recommend to buy anything blindly, sight unseen is fine, but always an inspection is what's going to cover you, okay, as an investor, right?
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Okay, you see how thorough Menvo Limited is. We have agents like that. We're very thorough. What we do when the contract is drawn is that we put an inspection window of 10 days.
An inspection contingency.
Contingency.
Yes.
We say windows. The Americans. if you correct my English again, I will curse you in Nigerian language.
I'm trying to educate them.
Okay, thank you. They have an inspection contingency, which is an inspection window. So what they say is you have 10 days to have your inspection report in. And trust me, we do it in 4 days, in 3 days, in 2 days. We do it so speedily. When you put your offer. Yeah, let me explain that. If you put an offer on a property now, in the contract we put an inspection window in that contract that you sign. And the inspection window says if you find something you're not happy with, you could pull out of the contract without being in breach of that contract. And that's why it's called a contingency. It's a condition on a contract. When lawyers say a condition, it means the contract does not come into fruition until that condition is fulfilled. Yeah, in England we say subject to inspection. In
That's
America
right.
I say contingent.
Yeah, and also subject to inspection is also used.
Okay, well, subject to inspection, yes.
On the other side of that is you can also counter offer and say, if you fix these repairs, I will buy the property. You don't necessarily have to walk away from it.
Yes, but when you do that, you're going to have another form of investor saying, God bless you. I want to buy that property the way it is,
Yes.
because it's 70% below market value. What you want, free?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
If it's going to cost $2,000 to repair the property, and the property is being bought for 70% below market value, I will buy it without repairs, because even if I repair it, I still have value. And that's what, yeah, exactly. A lot of my clients have lost out. One of those offers, remember the offer? He was dragging his feet. He'll tell you. I said,
a pool pump not working. Oh, a pool pump costs you $2,000. Are you going to cry over a pool pump? Oh, yeah, all right, then all of a sudden somebody comes. By the time they do everything, somebody comes and buys it under them. So, you know, you really, if you're getting a property at such a bargain, you know, $2,000 is pennies compared to what that property is going to make for you pretty much the rest of your life.
One second.
We'll take it at a time. Just raise your hand when you have a question, and then we'll bring the mic to you.
Can you buy the property outright and then do all the maintenance work afterwards? Like, let's say you have the deed, etc., and the pool wasn't working, you say, I'm not going to do anything yet, I'll take care of it a few months down the line.
It's your house. You can do whatever you want with it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Ade, the answer is in your question. You know what the answer is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what I'm worried about is, let's say they've done the inspection and something needs to be fixed. Because we live over here and we don't know, how things cost to fix things over there. Is there any way that we might, maybe your agent or whatever it is, got contractors? I'm an electrical engineer, so I know how it costs to rewire a house here.
Of course.
But I don't know how much it costs in the US. Okay. So maybe I've put 10,000, or I wanted to offer 10,000. And I don't know, roof or whatever it is. So is that a way whereby, this job is going to cost me so amount to fix it? Okay. All right, if that be the case, then that's fine, I can go for it. But if I don't know how much, then it's like, I don't know, I'm going to spend maybe times 2, times 3 for how much I bought it. That's where the...
I'll answer it quickly.
Yeah.
I think, I'll answer it. The answer is a resounding yes. We've got contractors I was just saying this maybe before you came in. We've got contractors in every state in America, building contractors. Unlike in England, in America, you need a practicing certificate to be a contractor. In other words, to use the American English, you need a license.
A license, yes.
It's called a licensed contractor. You can't just be a contractor. All our contractors are not just licensed contractors, but they are vetted. So if you put an offer on a property, our contractor will say, well, it's going to cost you this. So you have a rough indication. You'll be well informed from the start. From the start, you have all the information you need. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Two questions. One is, what are the, like when you do a deal, the average fees? Obviously, you guys, you're going to make money as well. So, what are the fees?
Right.
Second question is, do the properties, obviously they're sort of 50 to 70% below market value. Do they have equity in them already when we buy them? Or are we waiting for the, I know what you said about the market sort of coming up. Do they have any equity in them when they're bought?
Okay. You deal with the equity part.
okay?
That's the difficult one. I'll do the easy one.
Yeah, well, I guess it's pretty obvious if you're getting it between 50 to 70% off market value, there is no equity in the house right there. So that pretty much kills the equity. And that's where it would come in good as an investment property, where you would make your residual income and then later on, maybe 5, 10, 20 years from now, sell it, for 3, 4, 5 times its price, if that's what you decide to do.
Okay. All right, so that's the second question. The first question is, there is a fee, Member Limited has a fee of £2,000 finder's fees that and it covers everything that we do, including in dollars, well, you do the math. Because we're incorporated, I couldn't do it in America because I've been breach of the American rules. But because it's a British company, we're a British company, we're governed by Britain, and it's a registered company, and that's why the pounds, which is a foreign, what do you call it? Means of exchange is the pound. Is the pound. So it's £2,000, which is paid on completion. On completion, not before. Okay. When you register, there's a $250 registration fee that comes off the £2,000. So in the end, you're only paying $1,750. And that registration then gives you the access to all these properties throughout the US, not just... Yeah, but the contractor, if a contractor is going to do work, you're going to pay for that.
The survey and all that.
Yes, with the survey fees, any survey fees, we would cover that, which is the inspection fees. We will cover all the little nitty-gritties of expenses. That's why you're paying that. Yeah. Attorney's fees over there, it doesn't cover attorney's fees over there, but attorney's fees are like $300, $400, $500.
Yeah.
Even less. In America, it's not high.
Yeah, it's about $300.
About $300.
No
it's
more
not
than
like
$400.
it's not like we're the British lawyers. I mean, we're greedy. Sorry. There are lots of questions. So Alfred, I am waiting.
I've actually been looking at properties in Florida, and I've been even yesterday. And what I've actually found in speaking to the realtors over there is that one has to be careful, because a lot of the houses that are actually really at low value, like $55,000, $45,000, are actually in the deprived areas. And so in doing my research, I actually found out that a lot of the majority of the houses were in the areas that we wouldn't want to live in ourselves,
Okay.
if that makes sense. And so to actually buy it, to sell it, to rent it, we'd have to actually rent it at a very low rate for the people that actually live in that area. So I was actually struggling with that yesterday.
Okay. I am not sure where you're talking to.
It's Florida. I was actually, and a lot of Pine Hills, in Pine Hills area.
Pine Hill, don't go to Pine Hill.
Exactly.
Don't go to Pine Hill.
Okay,
If you're buying in Florida, what we're going to do, can I deal with that very quickly? Do you mind if I deal with it?
Sure,
He's
go
an
ahead,
expert in
go ahead,
Orlando,
go ahead,
Florida.
yeah.
But let me give you the geography of Orlando. If you're buying in Orlando, you go to Winter Park, Winter Gardens, perfect. If you go to Pine Hill, but there's some part of Pine Hill. There's some part of Pine Hill that are not bad.
Pine Hills is called Crime Hills, okay? But now, people, no matter whether it's a crime zone, no matter if it's, this is how I counsel teenagers in Florida, okay, to prevent crime. And crime has nothing to do with a people. It has to do with poverty. Okay? We can't judge an area just by its people and what's going on. Even poor people, they do dumb things, okay? Because they're stressed out because they're poor. But it doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't mean that they can't rent a house. Just because you're an investor.